Hello and welcome to season 4 of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kelby Bachman. Please give it up for the next guest on the show, Dave Mitchell. So, Dave is from Riceville, Iowa, where he was recently inducted into the Riceville High School Hall of Fame. Dave went on to wrestle at UW-La Crosse and earned All American honors after placing third his senior year. Dave just finished up his 29th year as head coach at Luther College, and he has built quite the resume. Along with his tenure, his Train Like A Norseman camps and Luther College Open has become well known across the country. This one is well worth the listen, folks. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy head coach Dave Mitchell. In the heart of West Union, Iowa, lies a hidden gem in Euphoria Coffee. Owned by local residents Nicole and Shane Havenstreit, they source everything they can from local vendors. From hot and iced drinks, to savory breakfast burritos, to baked goods, to botany tea, and even homemade waffles, Euphoria Coffee is a place your entire family can enjoy. You can find more information at drinkeuphoriacoffee2go.com or visit their Facebook page. And we also have a special gift just for you. Next time you stop in, you can get a free baked good with a $20 purchase. Just mention the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Euphoria Coffee. Our purpose is deeper than coffee. What are you up to now?
We had graduation here at Luther yesterday. So our youngest of our 4 kids graduated from Luther. So all 4 of them went to Luther, and the last one. So it was a big era for us.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be a party just for our family here yesterday and wrapped it up, and they all went home last night. So today, relax a little bit, put things back in order.
Cool. What's next? Now they're all through college? Jeez.
Yeah. So, getting ready for camps now, starting to do a little work on that again already this morning. Good turnout again, it looks like. I think there's, 35 teams for the first team camp already, and like 27, I think, for the last one. And then the girls, I think, are at 24, somewhere in that range already, too. So it should be good overall. It was good last summer, and it'll be good again this summer, I think.
Yeah, it's good every summer. It's good every summer.
It has, COVID obviously put us back a little bit there, but we got rolling again here now, which is good. So we're back rolling.
Yeah. How did that even get started? Train Like a Norseman, because you started it not you specifically, but you were there when it started.
Yeah. John McGovern was training for the Olympics from Riceville. He and I are best friends in Riceville, and we were doing some things together, and he had run some camps at some other locations where they had this team camp. And so he came to me and said, "Hey man, maybe we should run a team camp at Luther." And so we tried to do it the first year, and we had like maybe 5 teams and maybe 80 kids or so that came, but they loved it. They absolutely loved it, the teams that came. And some of those same teams come every year. So North Scott was one of those teams. Central DeWitt was one of those teams. Turkey Valley back in the day was one of those teams. And might have been Cresco, New Hampton, some of those. And so it kind of took off, and then the word of the mouth. And then, I tweaked it from there in some pretty major ways and just kept continuing to grow. It was really amazing to see. And then, maybe 10 years ago, some of the people that had been to our camp kind of branched off and started running their own. The ISI camp was kind of originated by a guy that had been at our camps for a while. And so then there's a little bit different, they have a little bit different focus than ours is, right? Ours is a little bit more, I think, team oriented, and really try to provide a lot of guidance with counselors and really just try to do right by the kids, I think, is what we try to do, to try to give them a great opportunity to grow as wrestlers and as teams to grow. And but then that was good, though, because then it allowed us to try to, okay, who are we as a camp, right? They're doing something that's successful for them, but it really isn't what we do. So how do we communicate that, and how do we kind of settle in on the things that we think are important for us? And so I think it allowed our camps to grow again a little bit by doing that. So competition's always good, and I think grow again. And now we're back full steam again, which is good.
What was it like that first year? I'm just, putting myself in your shoes and you got five teams. Were you a little deflated? I mean, were you like, gosh, is this gonna work? What are we doing? Like, I'm sure your
Well,
expectations were a little high.
they were. You could feel it right away, though, that we were on to something special. I mean, when that,
Really?
oh, yeah, it was just different than any other camp that I'd been a part of. And I think anything that those teams had been a part of. And they absolutely loved it. And we absolutely loved it. And so we knew it's kind of something, it's almost like an invention, right? And you come
Hmm.
across, we're on to something here. And then it just exploded. It didn't explode right away. The next year, maybe there were 120 kids. The next year, maybe 180 or 200, somewhere in that range. And then it kept growing from there. And I would liken that to the girls' camp. This will be year 3 of our girls' team camp. And, that was a little risky too of offering that and how you offer it and when you offer it. And
Hmm.
we keep the exact same format as the boys, or do you make it a little bit different? And so there was always some questions about that. And now it's big enough. It's in that range. It started about the same, around maybe 100 or so girls in year 1, and then last year we were at just over 200 girls, and I expect it to be a little bigger than that this year. So we've pulled it off and made it its own camp. So we were running it simultaneously in a separate gymnasium with boys team camp 1.
Hmm.
This year now we've pulled it off and made it a separate camp entirely, and I think it'll be the right choice. I think it'll continue to grow over time. So it's been good.
Jeez, yeah. How do you sleep? Like,
Well, there's a
I
lot of work.
mean,
Yeah, a
it's
lot
a
of work.
lot of work.
It is. Yeah, great help. Coach O'Gara, Jeff O'Gara, with me the whole way through as a great assistant director, and then
Hmm.
Jeff Friedoff, who was one of our first recruits when I came to Luther in the fall of '95. We hadn't won a dual meet the previous year. In my first year as an assistant coach, we didn't win a dual meet either. So 2 years, Luther did not win a dual meet. We had like 9 or 10 kids on the team, and we were really struggling. But by luck, by chance, I was able to recruit Jeff Friedoff out of New Hampton, and he happened to be a state champion that year. He had never gone to state before, and we were recruiting him, and he ended up being a state champ for New Hampton High School. And he came to Luther, and we had some good guys here for sure. And we had recruited some other guys that year, but he definitely elevated the work ethic, the expectation of everybody around him, which was outstanding. And I remember a few years in when he was here, maybe 2 or 3 years in, he came to me and said, and this is Jeff totally. He's like, what are you trying to do with these camps? What's your purpose for these camps? I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm just, everybody runs camps. I'm trying to run some camps here. But I
Yeah.
loved it. He was thinking, what are you trying to do? And again, it just kind of give you a thought, okay, what are we trying to do here? Provide a really awesome experience, grow wrestling in the region, and provide opportunities for our guys to work these camps and keep training, right? Is really what it came down to. And so he is now went from being a counselor, and now he's one of the directors of the camp as well, and has been with us for probably 20 years now, which is awesome. And they both play very important roles. Jeff and Jeff do. I could not do it myself. You have to have good people along with you, and they both have different roles they play within the camp that are very important roles. And so it's a lot. When the camp actually gets rolling, it's like putting out fires, right? There's just like a
Mhm.
million questions, right? It's just like you're sitting behind the head table, and when we had the girls and the boys combined last year, there were, I don't know, 800 and some wrestlers and probably over 1,000 people total. And there's just all these questions, simple questions, basic questions, but just
Mhm.
you just got to take it in, get the answer, try to write something down to follow up with it, so you don't forget. Okay, they need this. Okay, let me write it down. I'll come back to that. And you just got to handle it. The preparation work is a lot deeper, right? It's a lot deeper, a lot more details that have to go into place with facilities on campus, custodial staff, campus safety, athletic trainers, getting the cafeteria and all the access cards to the residence halls. It's just like hosting a really big event, right? Is what it comes
Mhm.
down to. And then, hiring proper counselors and all that kind of stuff. And so the event itself is a different feel than the preparation for the event, but they're both unique and fun. They're fun. I like it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Gosh. And you've been doing it for what, 29 years, 30 years?
But I've been 30 years at Luther.
Yeah.
I don't know what year we started this team camp, but would have been within a couple of years after being here, somewhere in that range. So probably 28, maybe the team
Yeah.
camps, right? Yeah. So it's been good
Gosh.
overall.
When you got that first year where you had like 30 teams or like 25 teams, I mean, were you still building up to that? So like it wasn't a shock to the system? I mean, I'm just
Yeah,
imagining going
yeah,
from 5 teams to 30 and being like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into?
yeah, yeah. It was. I don't think it was a shock because I could just feel it. You could just the coaches were talking about it, and you could
Mhm,
just sense that this is something. And but 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 it's always I feel it's probably a little bit like running a business. You get to points you say, okay, we have to expand, we have to do something
mhm,
different, right? And so I remember making the decision to go from one team camp to two team camps was a big decision for us. And
mhm,
our summer camp programming office was encouraging us to do that just to alleviate a little bit of stress on the cafeteria and have a little bit more in terms of rooms available. And then we went from two to three boys team camps. And that was, a little scary to make those decisions. And just kind of like this year, switching the girls camp is 100% the right decision. I feel very confident in it. But those are never, just automatic decisions. You got to come to
mhm,
those over time. But it was never, okay, this year it went from this to twice that size, right? It was always an incremental growth. And you're
okay.
always thinking about, okay, how do I manage that growth and how do what is the limit? Like we're going to sell out of boys team camp one this year. We sold out last year with the girls camp and the boys camp, and I expect to do so this year. And so you have to decide, okay, what is that limit that we really can provide the experience that we want to provide, which is really important for us. It isn't just run as many people through the building as you can, right? We
Mhm.
want people to be safe, number one, and provide great guidance and great instruction. And what I love about our camps, Kevin, as you know, is this ranking system, right? Which makes the camp a
Yeah.
lot more fun. It's a lot easier to do competition camps like our other competitors do, where they just have 14 weight classes and
Yep.
you take a weight and you wrestle, right? But that's not what we're about. We're about developing kids and developing programs. And a kid that's not very good, that's ranked, that's maybe not as experienced, that's ranked a 7 or 8. If they either don't get matches or they get thrown out against state champs, that isn't helping anybody. It's not helping the state champ. It's not helping that kid that's ranked 7th or 8th. So having competitive matches with kids that are ranked similarly is huge. And I had two
Mhm,
boys of my own. And so I could see it with my boys when they started to come to team camp, when they were ranked a 6 and they could wrestle a 5 or a 4 that's a little bit better than them. They were good matches, and those were good, growth matches for them. And then when they got a little bit better and they wrestled those better kids, that was good for them too. And so we try to find that range where kids are wrestling each other that really helps the kids grow, which ultimately helps your program grow, right? I
right.
always think about our college room. Uh, you know, for sure we want elite guys and have to have elite guys, but those guys at the bottom of our roster are huge for us. And if they're getting better, our entire team is getting better, right? And so our camp, I think, emulates that too. It helps get those bottom end guys, the medium guys, and the top end guys grow, different than other camps do, I think.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that part specifically, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Um, I remember one time, this isn't a gloating story, but it was just an impacting story. You guys would always hand out the Wrestler of the Day t-shirts.
Yeah. Yeah.
The best one was where it said, I've got nuts. And on the
Yeah.
back, it was Mr. Peanut.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, um, I got the shirt once, you
Awesome.
know,
Awesome.
um, and it was impactful because like I was still kind of finding my way, and
Yes.
it was like kind of a confidence builder. Like
Yes.
obviously it could have went to somebody like Kyle Pedretti, he was really good. He could have been wrestler of the day every day,
Yes.
but there's no purpose in giving him that shirt,
Right. Yeah. Right.
so it was just important to me when I got it that like, wow, I
Yeah.
I got it over everybody else. Like,
Right. Right.
so that was just a confidence builder in and of itself. So like you're saying with the wrestler of the day shirt, with the ranking system, like there's just so unique to
Yeah.
your camp to develop wrestlers instead of just who's going to win this team camp.
Yeah.
So
No, I like that. And I like that too. And the coaches and counselors play a big role in us helping decide
yeah.
who's shirts, which is great. But kind of those shirts though, too, that's one thing we decided early. Hey, let's get a shirt, a camp t-shirt that
Hmm.
you actually want to wear. Let's spend some money on this thing that isn't just going to get thrown away. They're going to wear it. And it is so fun, Kelby, seeing those things all over. I'll see one from, the early 2000s. And if I see somebody wearing that somewhere, I go grab. I said, that is a cool shirt, man. That is old school. That's made it this long.
Hmm.
Somebody just texted me I was from the state track meet. Somebody texted me from the state track meet and said they just saw a couple T-Land shirts when they were down there. And then you maybe saw that, sadly, that tornado in Nottoway Valley a year ago. There was that video that went viral where that kid was asking for some golf clubs. He lost his golf clubs in the tornado.
Yeah.
He happened to be wearing a Luther Wrestling Train Like a Norseman shirt. And so everybody was reaching out to me when that went viral last year. Then I guess it just went kind of viral here again recently because of the anniversary. But yeah, it's fun to see those shirts everywhere.
Yeah, my dad still has a couple shirts from way, so like that's way back in the day, because we went in early 2000s. So yeah, And I like that point that you just made about a shirt that you actually want to wear. Like, they were cool shirts.
Yeah, you invest in them. It costs more, right? You can buy a cheaper shirt for half the cost, but it's just, again, I think it just goes in line with we kind of try to do things right. I mean, we don't do it all for just getting as many kids through as you can. It's try to do it right, and that might mean less kids, it might mean less revenue, and that's fine. Try to do it right. When it's all said and done, we're committed to that part.
Yeah. To the wrestling part a little bit, you mentioned that you were 2 years in and hadn't won a duel at Luther.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
2 years as assistant coach in the head before I came. And then I took over as head coach after year one. And it wouldn't have mattered who would have been head coach when I took over. Davis Johnson was a coach at the time. He'd have done great too, but we ended up being 9-6-2 that first year when I was head coach. Friedhoff was a big part of that. And we had some guys on campus that had been hurt and didn't wrestle the year before, and they came back. And Nate Score from Denver for that year, and he wasn't able to wrestle the year before. And he had a teammate from Albert Lee, Minnesota, Mark Bell, who was a 3-time NCAA qualifier for us, and he was out the year before. So we had a lot of things, in the works that kind of came together that first year that I became head coach. And so we were just scrounging, moving guys up weight classes, down weight classes. And it was fun, to not winning much to all of a sudden, and you could tell by the ties, right? Back then there were ties. We were 9 wins, 6 losses, 2 ties. That's how close every duel was that we were in, right? The ones we got beat bad by the good teams, of course, but we were scrapping. We were just trying to move guys around, and guys were just jumping in and filling in to try to find some victories, and we did, which was fun.
How do you keep the room positive when you're not getting any dual victories? I know it's a unique sport where it's individual and team, where like your guys might be winning, but your team's not. When your team's not winning, how did you, I know this is a while ago, but keep them confident that we're making strides, we're getting there, even though you're not seeing the results, keep chipping away.
If it happened now at this point in my career, Kelby, I bet it would be harder to turn it around. But at that point, there was change, right? They saw a different coach here. We had hired Jeff O'Gara as an assistant, who was an NCAA champion. And so we were selling a vision, right, of what we were going to be, not what we were at that moment. And that's exactly what we would do if it happened again now. We'd be doing the exact same thing. But that vision might have been easier for young wrestlers to see because they knew there had been change, right? And so if it happened again now, the same thing would be happening in terms of our vision. But it might be a little harder for wrestlers to buy into it. But I remember in those days, in my mind, my thought was coach like we have the best guys in the country and recruit like we have none of the best guys in the country. That was the thought process. Coach like these guys are NCAA champions and All-Americans. Go all in on them. Give them every ounce of attention to help them grow as a wrestler as much as they possibly can. Have the expectations that are never going to, wane. That's a big part of our program, is that, hey, here's the expectations, and we all can get above those expectations. But then recruit like crazy, knowing that we needed more talent to be where we wanted to be long term. And that's a pretty good recipe for success every year, probably. Probably. For any coach at any level, probably. And I know that's hard to do and keep that intensity level and that enthusiasm level to do, but it's probably a decent recipe.
Yeah, and also, how did you get people to believe in the vision that you had, especially incoming recruits? I mean, they see the results, the past results, and like, Luther, why would I want to go there? You're just like a smooth talker, I take it, huh?
I think it was enthusiasm. I think it's the enthusiasm you have, the belief you have. And I would come back to I'd say again now, right? With anything we do, whether it's starting the Luther College Open tournament, or it's trying to run a dual meet event in Nashville, Tennessee, or it's running camps, or it's trying to have a successful college wrestling program, what we do, we try to do well, right? And we have a history of bringing a lot of enthusiasm and energy to it, and put the work in, right, to try to make it successful. And so I think that was it. I think it was the energy and enthusiasm, and it was different. You know, we had come from great coaches. Greg London was my college coach, who was a Luther grad, an NCAA champion at Luther, and in his method, I mean, he was one of the top coaches in the country at any level, and so, you know, so I had his expertise. And then I'm from Riceville with Dave Ripley, Hall of Fame high school coach, who was so different than Greg. They had very different coaching styles, but super successful in the way that he coached. So I had these Hall of Fame coaches that I could draw from in different ways, and you know, try to adapt our own style the best we could. And I remember Coach O'Gara and I talking a lot in the early years, like, you know, I'd be looking to Waverly, and I'd be looking up to Minneapolis, and I'd be looking over to La Crosse, and hey, we got to do this because this is, they're doing that. And I remember Jeff a few times saying, hey, we got to be ourselves. We have to find our own route that's right for us, which I think we have. But it was growing. Everything was growing. There was enthusiasm. We were pushing hard. The athletes could see we were pushing hard. We were treating them well, I think, for the most part, and they could feel that too. And they wanted it. They wanted to be a part. The people we were recruiting, we were selling this vision of, we can be the ones that can bring Luther wrestling back to a high level. And Luther wrestling had been at a high level long before I got here. It just had taken a little dip there in the 90s for a bit. So yeah, it was a kind of a combination of a lot of great things.
Yeah. Right people, right time, just, you know, luck a little bit, I guess, if you believe in luck. How did you stay patient as well? You know, I know, like, as a coach, you want to see results right away too, you know, like, but how were you able to, like, I just stay patient and believe in the long-term vision, even if it took longer than what you wanted, or, you know?
You know, that scrapping in there in year one and winning those 9 duels was a big, you know, we just had a jump start then. We just kind of, okay, something's happening over here in Decorah, and everybody could see it, right? From not, and then, you know, Friedhoff was here. Then we had another good recruiting class after that, and really, really good recruiting class after that, again, selling that vision. And then, you know, so that would have been, I took over in the fall of 96. And in 2000, in fact, I think I'm looking at a poster right here. I think we had 4 All-Americans, maybe, and 6 instant qualifiers or something along those lines. You know, and then in 2001, we were 4th in the country, and beat the team out of Waverly at the NCAA tournament at Young Arena. And we had our first NCAA champion in Garrett Kurth from Waukon. So it happened pretty fast, really. I mean, I don't remember thinking about timelines in my mind at all. As you look back on it, I don't remember that. I just remember us, you know, getting better all the time and having better recruiting classes. But then, you know, I remember thinking it's going to get easier. Okay, hey, it was so hard to get this to this point. It was going to get easier. It never got easier. It never got easier. And the one thing I would learn about being in this for 30 years now is, in my mind, it never gets easier. There's always different challenges that you're going to face, and it feels like the wheels could fall off the bus at any moment. You know, it's like you feel like, oh man, there's so much going on here. You're balancing so much at all times. And even though I know that is exactly the case, it just feels like, man, you just got to keep going. You just got to keep going at a high level, and there's no chance. You just got to battle all the time. And every one of these facets help growing and developing guys, and help, you know, keep recruiting, keep promoting. All these things are very important, I think, to maintain a program at a high level for a long period of time.
Yeah. How do you do that? I mean, that not only you're trying to keep this program at a high level, but you got the Luther Open, you have Train Like a Norseman camps. I mean, you seem like you got your hands in all these different areas, and you must just be exhausted, or you just must be high strung on caffeine. I don't know.
There you go. That's exactly right. Exactly. Well, they all fit together. I think they all fit together. That's a key component of it, right? There's some reasoning behind it all, and And so camps in the summer allow us to keep our guys around and train and get exposure to high level clinicians. And about a third of our roster every year are kids that have been to our camps, right? So it's kind of like Disney World, if you will, right? What
Yeah.
came first, the theme park or the movies? I don't know, but they feed each other, right? And that's exactly the same thing here. Our camps feed our roster. Our roster helps feed the camps by counselors and such. And then the other things fit with that as well. So the Luther Open came about when budgets were tight and expenses were going up, and so hey, we can't travel as much as we want to. How can we provide a great experience for our guys at home? So it fits with our goals. Okay. So then we started this. Did we think it'd get as big as it was? Not really, but it has. It's become a great college open tournament early in the year. But again, I think it comes down to it wouldn't stay that way, or if they've even gotten that way, if it weren't run really, really well. And that's again a credit to Jeff Friedoff. He's our tournament manager for it. And we try to do it in a way that coaches want to come back to it, right? That it's a good experience and get out of here at a decent time. If they're here till 10 o'clock at night, we're going to lose a lot of teams, right? So, that feeds it. Then this whole deal in Nashville, the dual meet event is, well, we want to go somewhere. And we used to go to the Desert Duels with Wartburg, and it was good. It was great. But then all of a sudden we had some guys on our team that came to me and said, Coach, we don't really like Vegas, man. There's some kids that were just really good kids, and they were stud wrestlers. One was a two-time NCAA champ, four-time All-American for us, Matt Pyle, who's a doctor now, and Nate Hansen, who was an NCAA champ for us. And those guys had strong faith as well. And they didn't, obviously Vegas has the label Sin City for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. And they just didn't like going to Vegas. It's not that they didn't want to wrestle there. They just didn't like it. And so they came to me and said, Coach, we don't want to go to Vegas, man. So I'm like, okay, well, we got to go one more year because I don't have anything else in place. But the next year we'll find something. We'll figure something out. And then we started the Gator Boots Duels, and took a little while for us to find our footing. We started in Orlando, then went to New Orleans actually for a year or two, and then now we're in Nashville, which is the perfect setting for us. So anyway, it all ties together, right? So that's a recruiting thing. People like to travel in different areas. Our families love to go to Nashville with us, and so it just builds the family atmosphere that we have within our program, and they all fit together. And great people along with me. Again, Jeff Friedoff throughout is involved in all these. Jeff O'Gara throughout is involved in all these. And if we didn't have them, we wouldn't be able to do it. There's no way one person could do it effectively.
Yeah. What about, your family? I'm just thinking you have all this stuff going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying they take a back seat, but I mean, holy cow, man. I mean, you got to make time for them at some point too, how do you do all that?
Yeah. Well, I have a great wife that was really, truly 100% engaged in Luther College wrestling from day one. So when I was an assistant, we had a little daughter, and she was alongside. And we went to 2 and 3 and then 4 kids. Before they were involved in sports, they were traveling on their own to almost every event we were at. So they're all in little Luther wrestling shirts on. If we went to Florida, a lot of times 1 or 2 of them, or maybe all of them, would go with us down to wrestle in Florida. And so she really was a lifesaver, because she recognized that if I'm going to spend time with Dad here and my husband, it's going to have to probably be in this environment, or I'm not going to get to see him very often. And that was a great, thing that she sacrificed to do and did. And it was huge, right? So our family, my wife and my kids, have been a part of Luther wrestling as long as I have. Now, I mentioned to you yesterday, or earlier in this call, that yesterday our youngest graduates from Luther. So our last is leaving Luther. And so it is hitting me like, okay, I've had a Mitchell in some facet with me, or wrestling, with us since, whatever, 95. What's it going to be like now? Am I going to be on my own out here? It really is starting to, makes you wonder. So we'll see how it goes next year. But my wife said, hey, we got a granddaughter now. They need weekends off. I'll just go grab my granddaughter and I'll come with her. It's like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. That would be so freaking great, So it's a change, but it's just been a great wife and some great kids that have been very supportive. And Luther wrestling is a huge part of their life too.
Yeah. How did you, throughout some of that time, how did you balance the stress of it all I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
obviously there has to be some in there. Like, but what I remember is every time like we interacted or you would come to the camp, like it would seem like you talked about how there's fires, little fires you got put out everywhere. You didn't show it. You
Yeah.
never showed it. I mean,
Yeah.
how?
I think fortunately, due to my upbringing, I think I'm a guy that always sees the positive, not the negative. If a person were to focus in on the negative, I think it'd be very tough to do. I think there's so many negatives that come across that if you spend any time thinking about that, you'd just wear you right down. You'd have no chance. But luckily, I'm not wired that way, and that like not that we don't have bad things that happen, but I'm able to kind of redirect it pretty quickly towards, okay, what can we do? How can we make this better going forward? And so I think with family stuff too, you miss stuff that sucked, and you're trying to balance. And again, my wife was outstanding. Bridget was great about saying, hey, you have to be here at this concert, you have to be at this event. It wasn't like, hey, we really want you there.
Hmm.
She was, you have to be here. Okay, I'm going to be there. I'm going to find a way to be there. Because in college coaching, and I'm sure every coaching level, there's always more you can do. There's always more. There's always another recruit text or a call. There's always more communication you could have with your athletes. There could always be more fundraising and doing. It's never done, right? So it's prioritizing. And she was great at helping prioritize. You have to be at this. Okay, I'm going to be at that. No matter how tough it's going to be on this end, I'm going to make sure I'm there. And then other times she was very understanding when I was over there doing that stuff and not being at some of the events throughout. So I think just staying focused in on what's next. What's today bring? What do I have to be at today? And that, I don't think that'll change. I mean, now we have grandkids, and so I think that balancing act is always going to be the same. And I suspect it wouldn't be any different if I were doing something else either, right? I
Hmm.
think people have to prioritize what they're doing at any given time, and this is mine.
Yeah. And out of all this, you're still balancing all this. You're also, you still teach math. You still
I do. Yeah, yeah, I do.
you're an
Yeah.
assistant professor on top of this all. Um, why math? I guess.
Well, I was a math undergrad, and I liked it, and I
Mhm.
think I was I'm a natural teacher, I think, and I like teaching. And at Luther, when I came, there was no wrestling coaching position open. So when I came in the fall of '95, I was a volunteer assistant wrestling coach on the team. And so the only way to make money was to do something. And I wouldn't have come if I wouldn't have had something up here. And the something was I got to teach a few math classes, which I loved. It was awesome. And then that grew into a joint appointment when I became head coach the next year. I kept the math portion and then the wrestling portion, which Kelby was actually huge because Davis Johnson, the former head wrestling coach, was the
Mhm.
equipment manager. And by me taking over the math role, I was able to communicate with our athletic director to keep that equipment manager position wrestling. And so we got a full-time assistant wrestling coach where many of the schools in the conference at that time did not. And not only did we get
Oh,
one, but we got an NCAA champion in Jeff O'Gara, who was a lightweight guy and I was a bigger guy. And so it was really huge. And our athletic director was awesome, Joe Thompson at the time, and he was just phenomenal. But I remember him telling me, he said, Mitch, I am not making this an assistant wrestling coach position because you think I should. He said, I'm doing it because if you get hit by a semi tomorrow and get killed, how am I going to find a position for the wrestling coach if I don't keep this as wrestling? That's like so practical. And he was joking too, but it's
yeah.
like it was huge. So we had two, full-time assistant wrestling coach and Coach O'Gara. But back to the math, I love it. I mean, I think I could get out of it. I think they would let me out of it if I talked to them about it. But I love it, and I get to interact with people from across campus and students from across all areas and athletes from all areas, and it also helps emphasize with our guys what I communicate every day, that high level academics are as important as high level wrestling, and you can do both and you can balance both, but it's prioritization that you have to do all the time. And so I like it.
Yeah. Do you help some of your kid? Like, do you have a lot of students or not student? Yeah. Do you have a lot of your athletes come through those classes?
I do. I probably have maybe 2 to 5 wrestlers that are in. I usually teach 2 courses in the fall, stats courses in the
Okay.
fall, and usually have 24 students in each of those courses. And then I teach a leadership class every other January term, which I love. And the leadership, I get a lot of, wrestlers that come through, which I love because, it helps our whole program when we're talking about leadership stuff. And then in the math, probably 2 to 5 a year between those two sections is what I usually have. And it's good. It's great having them in those settings, but it isn't, I'm interacting with them all the time anyway. They know me so well. It's like, it's not them that I'm really having an impact on because I'm already, we're already communicating. But it's I like the other athletes that I have or the music students that we have. And, I've had some big timers. Like Eric Cutler is like one of the best opera singers in the world. And he was in my math class once, which is really you probably don't know this person, Molly Busta. You ever heard of Molly Busta? She had a polka, a cable TV show, Molly B's polka on cable TV. And she was in my class, which was cool back in the day. And, and so you get a lot. Obviously, Luther's strong in music too. So I had some strong musicians because it's introductory courses that I teach typically. And just fun, really fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool to see other people who are really good at something other than wrestling, and like their craft and why they're good at it and how they're good at it and just kind of seeing what makes them tick, and maybe you might even have you adopted some of that into your own philosophy or your own coaching, maybe a little bit of like, wow, they're really good at polka. How are they good at it? But like it's not wrestling, but
Yeah.
the process of being good at something might be.
Yes, it is. No, 100% Kelby. Maybe not directly specifically of how they got there, some details, but what I'll say is this, that it became clear to me early on in my years at Luther, and I feel the same today, is that we are surrounded by future leaders in our communities and future leaders in their occupations at Luther. I believe that to my core. When I walk around campus, I can feel it. When I saw people go across the graduation stage last year, I know it. I see it in our team. We graduated a guy that's going to be a doctor. My son is going to dental school. We have a guy that's a DNA officer, a DNR officer, just on our wrestling team now. We have 2 nurses that are going to work at Mayo Clinic that graduated with nursing. We have a chemistry teacher and coach that's graduating. We have a guy that's going to be a psychologist down the road. We have a guy that's a manager with Quick Trip up in La Crosse. I mean, you can just see, and this is year 1. Like this is their first job, right? It's like, it's like, oh my gosh, these guys, and I see it, man, 5 years down the road, but it isn't just our team. I see it across campus. And when I walk across campus, you can just feel it. And it's a great feeling. It's like when you go to a wrestling room, and this is what I try to express to guys in recruiting. You go to a wrestling room, you oftentimes see guys at the same weight class, they elevate each other, right? They get better because they're training with each other all the time. I believe that's what it's like at Luther in every facet of your life. In academics, you've got great students that are going to be the future leaders in their occupations, and you're there beside them. Well, what's going to happen to you? What are you going to help them with? You just grow together. And I just think as people too, this community-based living that we have in this smaller community with not a lot of distractions, you just learn things and grow in ways that you wouldn't, like I did by going to state schools. It's just a different experience overall. And so I'm all in on it, man. I just really believe in this place overall. It's really special, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, you are like the perfect guy for Luther because if you look at some other, not look at some other, but if you look at Luther broadly, you're like, gosh, Decorah, there's not much to do there. What do we like, Luther, you know? But I mean, when you get there is when the impact is made. You're like, wow, this is not what I expected,
I know. It's special. It's special.
Yeah.
It's we suck at recruiting because it's so hard to communicate. It's so difficult to communicate. Experience it. Like, because you come and visit and it's like, yeah, this is a neat little town, and it is one of the top towns in the country. And oh yeah, it's pretty here, But like you say, what are you gonna do here? Well, the fact that there aren't a ton of things to do makes the fact that people make their own fun together. They create community together by making those things fun together. That's part of the beauty of it, but impossible to communicate. Impossible to you're actually on campus feeling it. But our team truly is like a family, but the campus overall, it isn't just our team, the campus overall by this residential living in this place is just so unique, so unique. And I think if you plopped us in the middle of Minneapolis, it wouldn't be the same.
Right.
Wouldn't have the same feeling. And if you, plopped us in, pick on Fayette, but Fayette, Iowa, let's say, I don't know if it'd be the same either. I think it's just unique to this place. There's enough unique things in Decorah that are pretty cool and awesome to experience, but yet enough that you make on your own on campus too.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Um, I want to take us back a little bit farther in the
Yeah,
time machine to when you wrestled at Riceville. So you're
yeah,
from Riceville.
yeah, yeah,
Um, you were just inducted into the Hall of Fame.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank
With
you. Yeah,
John McGovern. So that had to
yeah,
be pretty sweet.
very
Um,
sweet.
what took him so long?
Yeah, they just started an athletic hall of fame. Thanks for asking. They just started about, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago, and we have some great people to go in. So the first class that went in, my brother was in the first class. He was a state champ in Riceville, Riceville's first state champion in wrestling in 1973. I think we had an Olympian distance runner that went in. So there were strong classes that went in before us. And we might have been year 3 or 4 or something like that. But it's cool that they got to go. And it was kind of started by a student there, Mar, who wrestled at Upper Iowa for a little bit. Uh,
Wow.
he and a couple teachers and maybe another student kind of got the idea going, and it's been awesome. I've had the good fortune of being at a couple of them now, and it's really fun. And I know for John and I, it means a lot to us. That Riceville meant a lot to us. Coach Ripley means a lot to us, and so it was an honor for us and for our families, right? Not just us, but I'm the youngest of 8 kids. John is the youngest, or not the youngest, but he's one of, I think, 5 kids. And so, all of our families were there too, which was fun. And then you saw John's going into the Iowa Wrestling Hall of Fame here, which I'm proud of him and so deserving. The first Division III athlete to go in, which is cool this fall. Really proud.
Yeah. Yeah. So Riceville, Iowa, this small town, but it was breeding athletes and wrestlers
Yeah,
specifically. I mean,
yeah,
um, what was it like growing up in Riceville and just
yeah,
being the youngest of 8 kids? Like, what was it like growing up,
yeah,
Dave Mitchell in Riceville?
yeah. I grew up on a farm 10 miles out of town, and the youngest of 8 kids. And so our family had a rule that you can only go out for one sport, one activity, because how are you going to run back and forth to town all the time to pick up a bunch of kids from activities? There was no chance, no way
Mhm.
at all that was ever going to happen. And so it was by practicality. That was what the rule was. I was the youngest one coming through. And so had always hoped maybe they would break that rule, when I got,
Mhm.
but it was the right thing. And so I loved other sports too. But my brother was Riceville's first state champ, and from being 3, 4, 5 years old, I remember looking at newspaper articles and seeing him as a state champ, and so that was it. Wrestling was going to be what I was going to do, and then growing up in Riceville, that's what I wanted to do anyway. Rip was
Mhm.
really good at promoting in a small community. He got people behind him. He was ahead of the curve, and one of the things I took from him was kind of some of this gear, sweatshirts and t-shirts and all that kind of stuff. And I think he was ahead of the curve on that. He had a very unique, get everybody a Riceville Wrestling sweatshirt, get their names on the back. And there's a lot of work that goes into that stuff. And he did it year after year after year. And so growing up, people wanted to be Riceville wrestlers. And I grew up watching a lot of really great wrestlers in my time. And so, and then down the road, Mark Schwab was an Osage when he was a couple years older than me, and seeing what he was doing, and those kinds of the people are that you're thinking about. Hey, I'd like to be like them. I'd like to reach that level of success, and I never did. I mean, I had some good wins in high school. I think in the very last ranking the Predicament ever put out when I was in high school, I think they only ranked 5, and I was ranked 5th in the state my senior year in the very last ranking. However, the number 1, the number 3 ranked, and the number 1 and number 3 finishers in state were in my district. So I didn't make it out that year, unfortunately. Did I beat them? Yes. Did I beat them? No. So they made it out and finished first and third. So I never made it to the state tournament, and so that was kind of crushing at the end. But it was just part of our family. My oldest brother was state champ, wrestled at Upper Iowa, and so it was just part of what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I had great support.
How,
Though, just quickly, my mom died when I was 8 years old. So 1978, my mom passed away of cancer, and so we're at home. And my oldest brother is out of the house, and and I guess my second sister had just gotten married, so she just moved out. But the other 6 of us were in the house still, and it's the late 70s, and the farm crisis was occurring. We're farmers, and so a lot could have went wrong. A lot could have gone wrong with me, the youngest of 8. My siblings could have went and did their thing and lived their own life, and my dad could have got off the rails on a lot of different directions. And there's a lot of ways that this could have ended up very badly. And I'm just so appreciative and thankful to all of my siblings, the community as well, and my dad for not doing any of those things. They were committed
Mhm.
to family and helping us and grow. And I'm just really, really, really lucky. Could have been bad.
How did you stay on the tracks as well? Like you talk about how it could have ended up really bad, but for you as well, I mean, personally, you could have done. I
Yeah.
mean, when a parent passes away, I mean, that is a devastating thing for any family and child to have to deal with. So, yeah, how did you just keep going?
Got off the tracks a little bit. When I got to high school, I
Mhm.
was a little bit from time to time. And when I got off the tracks a little, I had strong redirection back onto the tracks by and father, which I'm thankful for and appreciative of, right? I mean, because if that goes very far, it could have been really bad. And so,
Mhm.
uh, just through great support, great direction to kind of, keep you on track.
Yeah. So do you talk a lot to like your wrestlers about um kind of your adversities, what you've been through, being, not being qualified for state? I mean, is that a teaching tool, or do they even know you're from Riceville? Do they just know you as Dave Mitchell, the Luther guy?
Probably more the latter, I would say. But in recruiting, a lot of college coaches probably focus their attention and energy on guys that have already accomplished a lot, right? State
Mhm.
champs, high place winners. And of course, we're after those guys too. But because of my personal experiences, I also know that there's a lot of gems and guys that don't go to state or don't qualify for state. And so when we have kids like that, I communicate that really well. And I tell them my personal story about it and tell them quickly about how it all ended, right? Yeah, I was in a similar situation, didn't go to state, but here's how I was third in the country by the time I was done. And now look what I do for a living. I'm a college
Mhm.
wrestling. So, so I use that in those settings. And then we talk a lot about beating guys that beat you in high school, right? Like, hey, when you get to college, you get to hear, we expect you're going to beat those guys. It's not if you're going to beat those guys, if you're going to beat state champs, if you're going to beat guys that's placed ahead of you. We expect it, and we expect a lot of it. And yeah, the first time you do it, it's going to be cool. It's going to be kind of fun. After you
Mhm.
do that, it's like, okay, I mean, I know I'm this good, that I should be able to beat those guys. So, so maybe more in those settings probably, but no, it doesn't come up, that
Yeah.
often. I would say, yeah.
Yeah. You just mentioned you were an All-American, you got third um your senior year. Like, I mean, that must have been just first off, why did you choose to go wrestle in college? Where you did, was that fire just still there from not maybe meeting your goals? Is that how you ended up wrestling in college?
I didn't for 2.5 years. I went to college and didn't wrestle for 2.5 years.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, I went to Winona State and they didn't have a program. And so John and I, coming out of Riceville, thanks to Dave Ripley and thanks to some other wrestlers in the region, had some really awesome opportunities. For example, Drake University still had wrestling at the time. Lonnie Timmerman, who was the head coach, came up and saw John and I at Riceville, and he called the next morning and talked to Coach Ripley and said, "Hey, we're going to offer those two a full ride scholarship to come to Drake, and we want them down there this next Saturday to visit campus." Well, it really put it in my mind at that point. Okay, do I really want to wrestle in college? Because I've been contacted by North Dakota State too, and John and I had also done a visit at UNI when we were there. So because of Coach Ripley's reputation, I think here
Mhm.
was a guy, me, that never qualified for state, but I was getting recruited at a pretty high level. But I did have some good wins over quality guys. So I think the difference was maybe that they could see, like I'm talking about, like you see, hey, this guy has a little potential, and I think that's what some coaches saw. But ultimately, I never went on the campus visit to Drake. John did, I didn't, and I kind of made the decision at that time I wasn't going to wrestle in college. And I will say that
Wow.
going to state when you had your sights set on being a state champion was crushing. It was crushing. And so I just thought, you know what? I think I'm maybe done for now with the sport of wrestling, thinking I would probably coach down the road, but maybe not, not compete. So I went to Winona State with some high school buddies that weren't wrestlers, and John went to Central College. And after 1 year, um, I was a part of a wrestling club at Winona State. We're practicing a little bit, but nothing too serious. And then I saw John. And then year two, John is really starting to elevate now, and he finishes fourth in the country. And I'm at this club at Winona State that now is growing in momentum. And so we're actually hosting a couple dual meets. We're actually traveling to Minneapolis and wrestling a couple schools, doing a couple tournaments, but we're still only practicing probably 3 days a week, maybe four. And so we're just dipping our water and our toes in the water. But then at the end of that year, I thought, you know what, if I'm going to spend this much time doing it and I see John having this level of success doing it, I think I want to transfer and wrestle. And so John and I actually took a trip and we visited the University of Wyoming. We went to New Mexico State, who had wrestling at the time. And we thought maybe we would transfer someplace together because he was thinking about leaving. And when we got done at the end of the trip, John said, you know what, I'm just going to go back to Central. But he said, Mitch, you should go to UW-La Crosse because the old Central coach, Greg Lonning, who was a Luther College graduate, was now at UW-La Crosse. And so he said, here's his phone number. You should reach out to him and you should go to UW-La Crosse. So I did. We got back in August from that trip. I called Greg a few times, didn't get an answer. Classes start. I'm still at Winona State. And Lonnie calls. I don't check his voicemails all summers, but I think it happened. He calls. He said, hey, this is great. We'd love to have you come down to La Crosse. Can you come this next week for a visit? So I went down there and, made the decision to transfer mid-year, started going down and training prior to that, and then came in, mid-year after 2.5 years of not wrestling and, got the starting spot. They weren't very good yet at that time. UW-La Crosse wasn't. So I got the starting spot at 177 right out of the gates and was about 500 that half a year. And then the next year went down to 167 and then was an NCAA qualifier the year John McGovern won a second title. And then the following year was third in the country and was right in the thick of it, right in the thick of it. Got beat in the semis in a close match. So, yeah, that's how it all went down.
Wow.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder, now that you have time probably to reflect on it, that time to just kind of were you just like kind of having some fun with the sport then at Winona? Where it was just kind of something you were enjoying and that kind of reignited that love for it?
I think the hunger. I think that was it. The hunger. Kind of coming deciding that, I need to get what I deserve out of this kind of, that mindset of just, hey, man, I know I have the ability because I was seeing guys that were doing really good things at that point that I had beat or been, right there with. I thought, I need to do this. I need to go after it and see if I can do it. And John's success certainly played a big part of that, seeing him, knowing him. And so, yeah, it was a big move. And it was, the same doubts that go through your mind, at the end. I remember my senior year in college and I was, pretty good at that point. And I remember our qualifier, they were only going to take like 12 guys, the champion and 2 wild cards from the Wisconsin Conference to the national tournament that year. And I had like 3 or 4 nationally ranked guys in my weight class at the conference tournament, maybe 3. So I remember it's the same thoughts you have. Oh man, what if this ends the same way as high school? You're finishing all off, you're this good, and you're unable to get what you want, right? But I learned at that point with maturity of how to redirect your thoughts, right? And that's something we talk to our guys a lot about. These negative thoughts, you're not going to stop them. They're going to come. It's how you redirect them quickly. And what strategies do you have to redirect those thoughts literally tens of thousands of times as you're preparing to take the mat, in these settings. And I've learned through experiences of how to redirect those some. And so it didn't end up that way. I ended up winning the bracket, and ended up third in the country. And so you have control over that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Some control.
Yeah. From going from knowing that you're good or feeling like you're good to not having the success. There's a lot of adversity there and mental games that you played with yourself, kind of like you talked about. When you lose, when you expect to win or have these goals, you're like, man, am I that good?
Right.
Maybe I'm not that good. Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Am I doing the right things? Like there's just so many floods of emotions and negative thoughts that just almost overtake you.
It is. In December of my senior year, I beat a 2-time NCAA champion from Augsburg, who ended up being named the the tournament that year. And I beat a returning All-American all on the same day in a tournament. And coming out of that, I just felt like, hey, man, if I can beat these guys, I can beat anybody. And then I sprained my ankle, went to Midlands, which was fun. Greg would take us down there, and I got beat in a match in overtime by a Division I All-American. And I felt, so I just was gaining this confidence that I'm pretty close. I'm pretty close. But then you get into January, and I beat a kid that was good at, we called them the national duels, but it was out of Cortland University. And but then I get to the third week of January, where a lot of college wrestlers falter a little bit, and I get beat by two guys that are going to be in my bracket at the conference tournament that I was telling you about, that I'm going to have to win to go to the national tournament, and I get beat by them in the conference duels. So then it starts to set in. It's like, oh my goodness. But it wasn't as much of a lack of confidence as it was this creeping in of, well, what if this ends like high school ended? That. But then it was urgency. It was a sense of urgency. I have to do more to ensure I get what I want. So it was an awesome feeling, Kelby. I was just like, it wasn't panic. It wasn't, oh no, the world's falling apart. It's, I got to do more. 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 I got to do what I need to do so I can accomplish what I want to accomplish. And it was probably the first time I'd ever really felt that in my competitive career. And it was an awesome feeling. It was just a feeling of, okay, it's my time. I got to do what I need to do to make sure that I take care of what I need to get, So it's kind of fun. And so, getting to that point and having that confidence and understanding how to redirect those thoughts have helped a lot as a coach and trying to help athletes think in the same ways the best you can. You have to, first of all, know where the thought process is. That's not easy to always figure out, but then try to redirect it the best you can.
Mm-hmm. What was it like when then, you ended up as an All-American? I mean, you probably still didn't get where you wanted to, you wanted that title, but still, I mean, you got the next best thing,
I did. Yeah. So crushing loss in the semifinals, crushing. Kid was way better than I was, way more talented than I was, but he was just a dog, taking injury timeouts all the time. He was so tired out there. It was crazy. And it was like 12-11. I was coming back on him, 12-11. I cut him loose to try to get one last takedown at the end. It was really close, but didn't get it, and I lost. And I was exhausted. And I came to the corner in the semifinals, and I sat down, and I was just exhausted. And I remember my coach, Greg Lonning, and John McGovern was assistant at the time. They left because we had a 90-pounder that was on the mat, and they went to coach him. And I sat there, and I was just defeated. And a guy by the name of Kevin Azinger, have you ever heard of that name? Was the coach at Central College for a lot of years. Great guy. And I've told him this story many times and thanked him, but I was just sitting there deflated. And he had a guy, Bruce Kinnan from Turkey Valley, who was coming up next to wrestle in the semis. And he came over and he slapped me across the face. And he said, Mitchell, everybody in this arena knows you should have won that match, but you got to come back and get third to prove it. And it just woke me up. It went from feeling sorry for myself and defeated to this guy that I didn't know at all. I'd never talked to him before, right? I didn't know him at all, but he knew me by name. And he said, everybody in this arena knows you should have won it, but you got to come back and get, third to prove it. And it just woke me up. And I got up and out of that chair, and I was okay. I'm on track. I'm going to battle my way back. And it was a dogfight. If he would have done that, I might have lost those next two matches because it was a freaking dogfight. The next match was absolute dogfight. A kid that was a returning All-American. And then in the match for third, I wrestled a kid that beat me out the year before at the national tournament, and it was a dogfight too. I mean, it came right down to the very end. And so really thankful for him and appreciative of him kind of waking me up, getting me going,
Yeah. And to not only finish your career, on a victory, but third place. I mean, after all the things you went through, I mean, gosh, to just look back on that, I'm just imagining it. It's gotta be proud. I don't know.
I was. Proud. My whole family was there. All my brothers and sisters were there. And, I mentioned my brother was Riceville's first state champion, and he was a 3-time Iowa Conference champion and a 3-time NCAA qualifier, but he was never an All-American. And so on my, a way of helping motivate myself, Kelby, was I put this little chip on my shoulder. Hey, I'm not doing this just for myself. I'm doing it for my family. My brother is never All-American. I'm going to do it for him too, for our whole family, And so when I got third and it came off and all my brothers and sisters were there, and my wife, of course, was just very awesome. It was really a great feeling. And do I look back at that semifinal match? Yes, I do. I also know that kid is probably better than me, but I was on the mix of beating him, but I can live with it. Coming back and getting third, I'm proud of that, and the fight that you have to get that, I'm proud of. So,
yeah, how cool was it to have John McGovern in your corner too? I mean,
it's great. It was great. So he came to grad school since he had finished his career in 4, and I had taken those years off. Right.
Mm-hmm.
He came up and we were close throughout that. And so him being there in my corner coaching me was phenomenal. And another twist to all this is my wife is John McGovern's first cousin. That's how I met her. It was through John. She's like, that's a story. It's so weird, But but yeah, so all of that was really cool. So he lived with Bridget and I when we were in La Crosse together, and it was great having him there.
Wow. How did you then end up at Luther? So you graduate. First off, what'd you get your degree in at La Crosse?
Straight math, yeah, straight
Math.
math,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And I went to grad
So,
school at Iowa State for
okay.
math, straight math, and
Sheesh.
I thought I wanted to maybe be a college professor, maybe get a PhD in math, possibly is what I was thinking, and maybe coach at a high school or volunteer coach somewhere is what I was thinking. And I got to Iowa State, and about a year in, I was really missing wrestling already. And I was talking to Coach Lonning, and I was helping out at a Boys and Girls Club in Ames. Um, but I was missing it. And so then the next year, I actually got a junior high coaching position at Ballard School District, and that's when the Weathermans were little tiny guys.
Mhm.
Uh, the Weathermans were running around at these junior high meets that I was coaching at because their half brother or stepbrother, I'm not sure which it was wrestling for me in junior high at that time. And so, anyway, so I was at Ballard for a year, and at that point, I was finishing my master's degree, and I could stay for a PhD, or I could, do something different. And I was talking with Greg and saying, "Hey, I really think I want to get back into coaching." And he said, "You should go to Luther." He was a Luther grad, and I have family from the Decorah area, and so that spring in April, I just took a road trip up here. I just drove up and introduced myself to David Johnson, the coach at the time, who he had recruited me out of high school. So, we knew each other. And then I went to the math department and knocked on their door and said, "Hey, I'd like to teach here. Is there any teaching?" And they said, "Well, we've already filled our assistant coaching positions for next year, but we'd love to have you as a volunteer assistant if you wanted to." And the math department guy laughed at me. He laughed. He's like, "What? There's no jobs here. This isn't how this works. There's not, knocking on our door." And so I left. I went back to Ames, and Bridget was there with our youngest daughter, our oldest daughter. And I told him, "I guess we're staying for a PhD. We're not going to Decorah." And I get a call that next week from the math department guy, and he said, "You must have a horseshoe somewhere around because I just got a notification from the dean of the college that we're going to add 2 or 3 additional math sections, and if you want them, you got them." I said, "We'll take them." So we moved to Decorah. I asked Bridget. Bridget's like, I said, "Hey, this may not work out. I mean, I'm a volunteer assistant. This is not a permanent job." But I said, we can always come back and get a PhD if we wanted to later. She said, "Let's do it." And so we moved up here, and weirdly enough, it's worked out. 30 years later, I'm still here.
Gosh. What is what does Bridget do? What has she done during all
Yeah.
this time? Did she go to college and all
Yeah.
that?
Yep. So when I was at Ames in grad school, she was taking classes at DMAC. When I got up here to Luther, she finished her 2-year degree at NICC, and we're having a lot of kids and raising a family at the same time. So she's just been a trooper, filling in around as she could, raising our kids, and did home daycare for a while. And now she's a fitness instructor here at the Winneshiek Medical Center, and then
Okay.
a local studio, which is great. So she does an awesome job.
Wow. Okay. It's, it's funny that you just went up there, knocked on the door, and just said, "Hey, do you got any jobs?" Because that's the way it was done back then. Like you didn't have these websites like Indeed and
Right.
LinkedIn and all these where you can actually see job postings. Like if you wanted something, you literally either saw it in the paper, you had to go up and like you
Yeah.
did knock on the door.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a little unorthodox for sure, and just lucky. I mean, just flat out, lucky. And the whole thing ended up being lucky because in that year I was a volunteer assistant, and we had a new athletic director, and he was a first-year athletic director, and I would go in and work out in the mornings, and he'd be in there working out in the mornings, and then he was seeing kind of how things were happening. Like, remember now, we didn't win a dual meet that year when I was an
Yeah.
assistant coach, but we were building some enthusiasm, and he could see that. And the head coach Davis was awesome, and he ended up going to be a principal at Northwind when he left Luther to kind of finish off with an IPERS in the latter years of his career. And so when the job came open, they didn't even advertise it. Joe Thompson just hired me. Right? It's crazy. As a head coach, didn't win a duel all year. Uh, and he hired me. And I remember that spring, the head of the math department, the guy who I'm really good friends with, and he's a great person, and I'm thankful for him. I remember him coming to my office that spring. We didn't win a duel. And he said, he's just a practical guy. He's like, "Are you any good at this? Are you any good at How do you know you're any good at coaching?" I'm like, I remember walking away like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm good at this. I mean, we didn't win. We're not doing anything good, So I don't know. Maybe I'm not any good at this. I have no idea. And so, Joe hired me sight unseen. We convinced him to keep that position with wrestling. I hired Jeff O'Gara. And then, like I said, we were 9-6-2 the next year, and it just took off from there, which is lucky. So, but it was all, I could have gone either way. It's like a wrestling career. You go either way, right? You could, you could make it work or you're not, so.
How'd you find Jeff O'Gara?
We were teammates at UW-La Crosse.
Gotcha. Okay.
Teammates. So that year I was third in the country. He was a freshman and he was also third in the country that year. And then we had a guy from Monona, MFL, Terry Walters was an NCAA qualifier that year as well.
Really?
Yeah. Andy Founder. So we had 3 NCAA qualifiers that year, and we were 6th in the country with 3 NCAA qualifiers. We all made the semifinals. We all got beat. We all came back to the 3rd place match. Terry got 4th and Jeff and I got 3rd. So it's kind of a neat, it kind of catapulted. That was the first top finish lacrosse had. And then obviously they got going from there with Coach Lonnie.
Wow. Real quick, before you said if that athletic director asked you if you were any good at this, I was thinking the same thing. Like all you had only been a junior high coach.
I know. I'd been junior
high volunteer assistant. Like
I know. I had never been in a college room other than when I wrestled for 2.5 years. I know. But I know it could have been horrible. Luckily it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, I guess my question is, how did you feel qualified? Did you feel like you were in over your head? Like at times were you kind of imposter syndrome where you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I don't know if I can do this. How am I going to do this? Like, again, like those negative thoughts kind of flooding in, just like you do when you're wrestling. Now you're a coach and you're getting the same thoughts. Like, what if I can't do this? Yeah. I've never done this. I don't know.
I never had those thoughts.
Really?
Never had, other than when the math department guy said, how do you know you're any good at this? That was the only time I was like, geez, maybe I'm not any good at this, but other than that, I never thought that. I just had great coaches with Dave Ripley and Greg Lonning. And I just thought if I do things similar to what they do, or, it's going to be okay. Bring a lot of enthusiasm, it'll be okay. And I did luck across some other stuff along the way that I got from not either one of those guys that happened to be an integral part of our program. And that is kind of peaking guys at the right time. Right. Mm-hmm. And I came across you won't believe this, but it's an article from Dale Barr, who's an Iowa native, but he was a University of Michigan coach. And you remember the old Amateur Wrestling News magazine?
Yeah.
Okay. There was like a 2-paragraph article. I still have it in a file somewhere that Dale Barr talks about peaking wrestlers. And I'm thinking, what is this? This is not something I've seen before. And he talks about, backing off at the end of the year. And that is not what I'd experienced at Riceville or at La Crosse. Greg and Dave were awesome coaches, phenomenal coaches. Mm-hmm. But like a lot of coaches, like my intuition too is at the end of the year, you go harder. You get, you think about maybe your high school experiences is, Riceville, we would bring in all the state qualifiers from the region and practice together right before the end of the year, right? And there's some value in that for sure. But it doesn't fit this idea of peaking and getting guys confident and mentally in a great place. Greg Lonnie, too, same thing. We practiced harder at the end of the year than we did earlier. And so this little article from Dale Barr got me thinking about this. And then I started asking questions. And then I went to the National Wrestling Coaches Convention, and Dan Gable presented on the idea of peaking. And he talked about how he starts his practice calendar by the NCAA championships. And he goes day 1 before the NCAA championships, day 2 before the NCAA championships. And he builds his entire season from the NCAA championships back, not the other way around. Oh. And he had talked about backing off and peaking phases. And when he was done, I came up to him and I asked if I could have his notes. And so he gave me some little recipe cards with Dan Gable scratch, as you'd imagine, scratch notes on it. I still have those to these days too. And then I started just trying to incorporate it for us. And Kelby's been a huge part of our success. It's getting guys to wrestle their very best at the end of the year. And there's a lot of science that goes into it. There's a lot of art that goes into it as well. And it's different for every athlete. But it was just by luck, I think, that I came across those things, had those experiences, because they weren't a part of what I experienced as an athlete, right? And so, I also took that to mean I'm never done growing as a coach. Never. There's always more to learn, always more to grow, better ways to do things. And I'm 100% believe that and search it out, whether it's in the technical is of course part of it. and we're always looking at new technical things, but it's different strategies too. How you approach the sport, how you communicate, right? How we communicate with athletes today is way different than it was 10 years ago. And we better be evolving and growing in how we do that, or you're not going to be very effective as a coach, right? And in 10 years from now, I'm sure it'll be significantly different than it is now. And so this idea of continuing to grow as a coach and evolve started then with this thing I'm talking about, the peaking phase, but it's really been a part of my career throughout.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, even I just remember going through the camps and
Yeah.
what they were like. I'm sure it's just completely different than it is now. And is that at times, can that be exhausting? That maybe not exhausting, but like overwhelming. I don't know if that's the right word either, but you're constantly having to change, and you have to change. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a lot.
I
Change
think
is hard.
I think it's exciting. I think it's what
Wow.
makes it invigorating.
Mm.
If it were the same all the time, I'm pretty sure I'd get bored, and I wouldn't
Yeah.
like it. I just think I'd get too bored. So to me, it's exciting. I like it. I like the opportunities, and I like impressing it upon our staff. Does it ever feel like you're on a hamster wheel and you can't ever, get to where you want to be?
Hmm.
A little bit from time to time, but I just think, I mean, how fun would it be to just be the same all along? I don't know. I don't think that'd be for me. So I like it, but I think it's important to find the right resources and surround yourself by the right people too, and then ask the right questions. I mean, even in recruiting now, I've got some other colleagues at Luther that I'm visiting with about their process, and it's just kind of okay. So then next year, so that gives you a real focus. Okay, next year we're going to change this. This is how we're going to do things differently next year, and we'll evaluate it, see how it goes at the end of the year. But this is what we're going to do differently. So it's never. I don't know if this fits, but I don't have a set of practice plans in a 3-ring binder or on a file someplace on my computer. We make practice plans every week, brand new, based on what we have for the team that year. We do not look back.
Wow.
Within the peaking part at the end of the year, we tweak that and change it a little bit. But every year, every week is a new week and a new approach that we have. And I would never want it any other way for me. Because I feel like if I had it all in a binder and accessible, it'd be easy to just go grab it, right?
Mhm,
Well,
mhm.
we should do that because that's what we did last year. No, this team is this team. You better be creative with this team and what this team needs at this given moment, and not be reliant on what you've had in the past. So for us, I think it's a good approach.
Are there certain baselines that you use, like this almost as like a concept? This is something we're about. This is something we need to instill no matter what team it is.
Yes, for sure. And also times of the year, there's different emphasis, right? So, hey, we want to get these base techniques covered at this time of the year, right? But how we do it and when we do it, and maybe those techniques are changing a little bit.
Gotcha. Okay.
This time of the year is a higher volume live wrestling. This time of the year is a higher volume conditioning. Here's what our strength program is changing at this time of year. And that comes back to the phases of the season from Dale Barr and Dan Gable, right? That's where those are coming from. So those are the overlying focuses of those time periods. And then, but then within that team, you're making, practice plans specific to that team.
Gotcha. Okay. I want to touch on this team before I let you go. 4 qualifiers, 2 All-Americans. What a 13 dual victories. I mean, it was a good year. Another good year for Luther. Like,
It
mean,
was.
what was the season like for you, I guess, through your lens?
It was good. And we have a lot coming back. That's the best part about it. And Kelby, the thing we haven't talked about is we're getting a new wrestling facility over here that is going to be one of the best in the country. No joke. The best in the country. And they are, they've got the ground broken for it. They're going to start pouring concrete in the next week or two. But it's going to be, imagine this now, 4 full mats, a square, right? 4 full mats, 40, not even, they're bigger than regular size. So like when you do construction stuff, usually you figure it's going to get smaller, not bigger, right? So when I went to order the mats from Riceville, we've got them all ordered. $115,000 worth of mats are ordered. They were going to be 42 by 42, a standard mat. And then our director of facilities said, Dave, actually, they're 43 by 43. They're a little bigger than 40. So it's like you get more than what you hope for, which is phenomenal. So that's just the wrestling area. And then on the one end, we're going to have 14 and a half feet by 86 feet long. That'll be weight and cardio equipment. So that's 12 square feet. And then in addition to that, adjacent to it is going to be a lounge and kitchen area. So we'll have a full refrigerator, a full kitchen in it, and then TV and lounge. And that's about 900 to 1,000 square feet for the lounge. We're getting a brand new locker room. There'll be wrestling only, which is nice as well. And so And this has got lots of windows. Unlike some other great rooms in the state of Iowa, this one is going to this is going to have a lot of great light in it. It's and it's premier location. So, Kelby, do you remember we call it the Circle Drive, which would be kind of the southwest corner of our athletic complex by the football field there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the wrestling room. They're plopping it right there. So it's going to have windows to the west facing the valley and the bluffs, and windows to the south facing the football field. And it's going to be beautiful overall. 22-foot high ceilings. So really high ceilings, lots of windows. It's going to be great. So that'll be done this year. So we'll be in October, November. The entire athletic complex is being renovated. Everything is being redone. It's beautiful. The gym is all being redone, and it's going to be beautiful. And I really do believe it's going to be one of the top 20 wrestling rooms in the country, regardless of level, but it might be a top 10 room. We'll see. It's really nice. So you take that with this really good team coming back. We have 2 returning All-Americans and a 3rd returning NCAA qualifier that we're excited about coming back with. And we had a really good freshman class this year that barely wrestled any varsity for us because we had a lot of 4th and 5th years for us, but they're good and they love wrestling. And so I think 5 of those guys or 4 of those guys went out to Vegas to wrestle at the US Open. And there's some tough kids in that group. So it's a good team. There's a spot or 2. We're still trying to get ourselves a little deeper a little bit better at here through recruiting. And our freshman class coming in next year is a good solid class too, I think. But it's a good team returning. We're excited about it overall.
Yeah. Wow. This new facility. Sorry. Now I'm just thinking about this is going to be amazing.
Oh, it's big time. Dude, it's big time. It is big time. It's just the location of it. It's like, it's a premier location on our campus. It's like beautiful. There's going to be they're putting a tailgate plaza outside of our wrestling room for like football games, baseball games, but we'll use them too. In the fall, socials for our teams, we'll have stuff there too. And so it'll have, access to go right outside, or you'll walk into our lounge area. It's nice. It's really nice. Really lucky. We're so fortunate.
Yeah. What's it like, real quick, becoming an All-American, but then coaching an All-American? I mean, what's that like when you help these kids realize maybe their dreams are a little bit bigger than just an All-American, and I don't mean just an All-American as like a slight to being an All-American, but if their dreams are to be a national champion, but what's it like to get them on the podium? I mean, that's got to be a nice feeling.
Yeah. You have so little control, it feels like, as a coach, as an athlete, control all of that. And I think I think all the coaches I've talked with in our sport, that's the first thing you realize. It's like, oh my gosh, it was so much easier as an athlete because we had full control. And as a coach, you have so little control. But it's awesome. I mean, it is, and having national champs and finalists and is awesome. But I'll say this, and I think we touched on it earlier. Those bottom end guys too. I have a photo for our team awards banquet every year. We have a very nice banquet, and I give out photos as the awards, photos of themselves in action or whatever it is. And I made one of, not an award, but I made a photo. When I was going through those photos to pick them, I found one of our coaching staff and our team that I blew up. And it was after one of our fourth year, won a match. He's probably only won 5 or 6 matches his entire 4 years at Luther College. But this was in December. He won a match, and we were all erupted, excited, right? And it's genuine and legitimate. The true joy of him winning that match is there. And so it isn't just the All-Americans and the national champions. It's also just seeing guys achieve stuff above where they have and what they think they could possibly. And I always try to tell our seniors that they are, by the time they leave Luther, and I'm not a Star Wars guy, but they're like the Jedis of wrestling. They know everything about wrestling, and they got to give back. They have to give back to the sport because they know so much. And it shows in our practice room. If you came in and watched a practice, you would see our 4th and 5th year guys. They look like good college wrestlers. Now, it doesn't always equate to wins because maybe they're not, completely sold out on every part of the competitive part, or maybe whatever, just experiences or whatever it is. But in the practice room, you watch them like, oh man, they're good college wrestlers. And so I really encourage them to give back to the sport, whether it's officiating or volunteer coaching or coaching at some level, but just, give back because they're so good at this point. So the coaching All-Americans, very rewarding. Coaching national champions, very rewarding. The downs are down. Kelby, you touched on this earlier. I don't think I ever answered it, but how do you deal with the downs? Well, I remember at the national tournament, we were in the thick of it to win it. After round one, we had 8 national qualifiers, and after round one, everybody was alive, and Luther was leading the national tournament after round one. And we went back to the hotel, feeling good. We felt like we had a chance of winning it that year. That evening round, we lose half of our guys, and we have 4 All-Americans, and the other 4, like 2 or 3 of them were just gut-wrenching losses, like really tough losses. And I remember going back to the hotel with my wife and our kids, and I was weeping. I was weeping because we're going to win it. I felt like we could win it that year, and so you're just realizing you're not going to win it, right? And that's what you had your on, and she let me cry for maybe a minute or two, and then she said, "Hey, you need to pull it together because you have 2 guys in the NCAA finals, and it would have been in the semis, I guess, because quarters were that night. You have 2 guys in the semis, and you have 4 All-Americans, and they need you. They need you. So it's okay to feel bad for a second or two, but it's over. You got to focus your attention on them." It's kind of like the Kevin Azinger deal, right? Just kind of up. She's like, she's 100% right. Why am I feeling sorry for myself? This isn't about me or us as a team. This is about the individuals that are there at the moment, and these 4 guys are in the thick of it, and we need to give them full attention. Well, 2 of them ended up being national champs. One was named the outstanding wrestler of the national tournament and got the most pins in the least amount of time at the national tournament. And so it's just, you just got to redirect. Just got to redirect, right? And sometimes outsiders can help you with that redirection. I pointed to a couple of examples, which also states we could be those people helping others redirect, right? I mean, we can be helping others do the same thing too. And I was certainly the beneficiary of that from a couple different people. So.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say that she slapped you across the face. Yeah. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
Lastly here, the D3 tournament in general was just fireworks. What was it like for you being there and seeing how it all unfolded as a whole,
Yeah, it was exciting. We love it when it's in the Midwest, and it's going to be here the next 3 years. Obviously, Cedar Rapids, La Crosse, and Moline, Illinois is where it's going to be. But there's something about going to new locations too. And, the whole team came out to Providence, Rhode Island, and being in that setting and was exciting. And the arena was packed. There's a big crowd that was there. I think Division III wrestling fan bases have grown. Luther's had a good one for a long time, and I think everybody is starting to get bigger fan bases, which is great for our sport. It makes it an exciting environment. Crazy matches. It just makes you realize that anybody could do it at any given time. Our 33 pounder was one of those guys. He beat a kid first round that had majored him earlier in the year, and then he pins the returning NCAA runner-up in the next round, right? A 4-time All-American that he pins. And then ended up being an All-American himself. And so sometimes when that happens, Kelby, I always like to think, and that's what I told our guys, like, hey, did you upset these guys? Or were you really just getting this good at that time of the year, right? Maybe you are just getting to that point that you're that good, right? And I always tell our guys that have never been All-Americans before, All-Americans are never All-Americans until they're All-Americans for the first time, right? They haven't accomplished that until they actually accomplish it. And you're developing into that day by day, week by week, by month. So by the time you get to the NCAA tournament, you're already an All-American. You just haven't actually got the honor yet, right? And so you got to just go do it and get the honor that you deserve to get. And so maybe our guy was that guy. Maybe he's that point where he's getting that good, where maybe he is NCAA champion worthy. Maybe he has those traits of being it. He's just growing into it at this time period. So, but it was exciting. There's always heartbreaking losses too. We had those also. But it was a fun environment overall, a good fan base, fun to be in a little bit different arena, and just a lot of great quality wrestling. The wrestling level in Division III is only going to go up with this NIL stuff that's happening and the roster limits at the Division I level. I just fully expect that you're going to see Division II and Division III quality continue to improve as we go forward.
Yeah, and especially after this, I feel like there were a lot of attention on the D3 tournament as well, like more than I remember.
Awesome.
For a while, like this team race and the wrestling in general, just you couldn't get away from it. I don't know if you're a big social media guy, but like on Twitter, it was just everywhere. They were awesome. Like, holy cow, look, are you paying attention to what's going on in Providence, Rhode Island right now? I mean, yeah.
We were so in depth in the process that I wasn't.
Yeah.
But that's good to hear.
Of course.
I hadn't heard that. That's really cool to hear. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. I mean, Shane Sparks was all about it. Like I mean, everybody was all about it.
Cool.
Seriously.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Good to
Yeah.
hear.
Um, so before I let you go, I wanted to know, when was the last time maybe you laced up your shoes and got out there and
Live, it's been a
uh,
long time. Technically,
really?
I stuff all the time, but yeah, live,
Mm.
it's been a long time. I had a couple vertebrae fused together in my neck maybe
Ah, okay.
years ago, and so probably that was probably it. Probably before that, with my boys, we would do some live hand fighting, but not anymore. I feel like I could be paralyzed by it. So, but technique work stuff, and same
Yeah.
with Coach. Yeah, he'll do a little bit of live now, but mostly technique work overall.
Yeah, I remember O'Gara. I mean, I don't know how much he was in the game back there, how soon, what am I
Yeah,
trying to say?
no,
How when he was hired, when
right.
we were there, but he looked like he was about to just
Yeah, yeah.
he was one guy you were like, I don't want to wrestle him. He looked like he could still go at a high level. It was crazy.
You could if you
But
had to for a while. He's still in good shape overall for sure. He's a good wrestler.
yeah. And then the one thing we talk about, how Decorah may not have a lot of, you know, outside attractions, as a whole, but they do have the Whippy Dip. My
Yes.
favorite, man. I mean, how often do you go there?
Yeah. I've been there twice this spring so far.
Okay.
That's great. Last year I think I only made it like 3 times all year, but it is
Really?
is great. The lines aren't as long right now. I don't know what's going on. Like usually there's a line. So it's an easy deciding factor. I'm
Hmm.
not going there. The line's too long. But all the lines are so short. I'm afraid I might be there more this summer because there's no line. I can just go and dip on the way. No, it's a great place. The Whippy
Yeah.
Walk, they call it the Whippy Walk. From the campus to get to there.
The
Whippy dip.
Whippy Walk. That's what
Yeah,
they call it.
yeah.
Uh, do you have a favorite that you get there, or like a Dave Mitchell special?
Not a Dave Mitchell special, but I do have a favorite. Okay,
Okay.
so they have the tornado instead of blizzards,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Uh, the cookie dough, but the problem is if you just get a cookie dough tornado, they put so much cookie dough in it, it's like almost all cookie dough. So they have chocolate chips you could put with it as well. So mine is medium cookie dough tornado. Go light on the cookie dough,
Okay.
no chocolate chips. That's what light on the cookie dough. And I always remind them, well, light.
Oh, that's good. The cookie dough. Next time I'm there, that's what I'm gonna get.
But I see they have a cone. I noticed this yesterday. They have a cone that's caramel infused cone that then is chocolate dipped and has pecans on top of it. That thing looks pretty good too. I might have to try that sometime this summer.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a new thing.
Jeez.
I think they call it the turtle cone. I think I saw the name on it.
The turtle cone?
Turtle cone.
Mm. What a
Yeah.
yeah. What a place. I follow him on Facebook, so I'm always like, oh, Whippy Dip's open. All right, here we go. It's
Yeah.
Whippy Dip season. It's just,
Right.
and we always bugged our coaches, like that was like the thing, the last day of you guys had the tournament,
Uh,
the last day, the individual tournament of your
yeah.
Train Like a Norseman, and we would like chant at him, Whippy Dip, Whippy
Yeah.
Dip. And
Yeah.
so
Oh, yeah.
we'd always scoot
Yeah.
over there before we left. The coaches would buy us Whippy Dip, and then we'd head home.
That's awesome. That's yeah.
So,
It's a staple in town. That and Maeve's Pizza are the staples.
oh yes, of course, Mapes. How could I forget Mapes? And then
Yeah.
Toppling Goliath is out there now, and that's a nice place too. So
It is. There's a local one here now, Pulpit Rock Brewing, that's right there by the Whippy Dip on the other side of the river. That's awesome, phenomenal, and you can only get it in Decorah. They don't sell it anywhere other than Decorah, and it's really great.
really, what's it called?
Pulpit Rock Brewing Company.
Huh?
It's great.
Pulpit Rock. Hmm.
They like,
I'll have to
they like
check that out.
Yeah, they don't have food or anything. It's a true microbrew. You can only get it in Decorah, but it's really good. They have a lot of great stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, hey,
Bobby.
yep. Before I let you go, I want to read you something.
Yeah.
So Dave Mitchell is Luther's all-time leader for career coaching wins. You're five-time conference coach of the year. You've been inducted into the Division III National Wrestling Coaches Association Hall of Fame, and you were named 2004 Coach of the Year. And now you can add to that resume Hall of Fame, Athletics Hall of Fame at Riceville.
Yeah, good stuff. The best is still ahead, baby.
Yeah. I mean, what is that? That's just a litany of stuff. Like what?
Yeah.
What do you feel?
grateful for the people I've been around, the student athletes I've got to coach, the relationships I've developed throughout all that, and the best is still ahead. That's how I feel. The best is still ahead. Yeah.
Do you at least look at that? Like, does that, did you ever imagine in your wildest dreams that like, that's what you would have accomplished by now, or not by now, but over your career?
Yeah. I don't think I ever really have thought about that stuff. I think it's been about trying to win a team national title, which we haven't done yet, but yet it's still the word, and trying to put our guys in positions to be national champions and all Americans, and balancing it with high level academics. I think those are the focuses of what I truly care about. And then whatever else happens, it happens, right? There's a level, there's a standard that we want to operate by as people, as citizens in Decorah, and the amount of work and the process that we commit to. There's a standard that I care about, but what the final outcomes are means something to me in terms of the athletes at the end of the year. I want these guys to be all Americans and accomplish their goals. But in terms of personal accolades, I could care less. And that's the truth. When it's all said and done, it's all said and done. Great. I feel good that I'm fully engaged in the process. I know who I am as a person and as a coach. And I know what I'm emphasizing. And whatever the accolades are, they are when it's all said and done. But it would be great to win a team national title. I will say that.
Yeah, I'm sure it would.
So yes, it would. Yes, it would.
It's coming, like you said. Yet, it just seems like it's good things happen to good people, and so it just seems like it'll happen.
Stuff going on here. This new wrestling room is going to be a game changer. I think there's a lot going on. I think there's a lot of potential still. A lot of potential to be realized here yet, I think.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Special thanks to my guest, head coach Dave Mitchell, for taking the time to sit down and chat with me. Cover art created and designed by Kristen Gill. Please feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe to this podcast, and you can also check me out on Twitter, Instagram, and my Facebook page to hear more of my content. And don't forget to check out my website at letstalkwrestlingpodcast.my.canva.site. And, as always, be sure to tune in to hear the next guest of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Take care. See you next time.